What is going on, guys? Hockey Guy 1 here. Welcome to my review of Shrek 2. Shrek 2 is directed by Andrew Adamson, Kelly Asbury, and Conrad Vernon, and stars Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, Antonio Banderas, Jennifer Saunders, Julie Andrews, John Cleese, and Rupert Everett. The story is about Shrek and Fiona who go to far, far away after she find out that they have to, like a royal ball there to wrestling from the father. Wrestling, but at the same time, there's fairy godmother who is there, kind of try and ruin it basically with this whole plan and try to get Prince Charming or basically so she can be on top of the kingdom. The story is very good. They do a good job expanding on the movie ideas from the last movie. It already shows where Fiona comes from and far, far away, expands more upon the idea of how she got her curse, and also expands upon how she came from this whole kingdom and exactly who her parents are. It just really expands on that, especially like the relationship with her and Shrek, as well as Shrek and King Harold, and like that. Those are like really two big focuses on this, because already the Harold is not like Shrek immediately because of the fact that he's an ogre. They do a good job kind of like showing that relationship and then growing it and over time, and especially since it's a big part of this movie. And another big part of this movie, of course, is the whole relationship with him and Fiona. I mean, is expanded upon even more. Is basically a huge thing in this movie is how Shrek doesn't really feel like he has to be an ogre because of the stuff he's hearing, but over time he kind of like realizes that after like Fiona kind of just wanted to be the ogre mayor, and it's just really an interesting way to kind of expand the relationship a bit and just expand the story. I mean, central elements of the theme really work a lot with each other, like the whole relationships there, especially with like the whole plans with Fairy Godmother and Prince Charming, really smart and put it into the story as basically it just really causes more issues than the first Shrek to then overcome. It just really kind of just makes it more interesting, and just a good way to kind of like do it. Really is, it just really works because the way they ended up doing it with the whole potions of just made it really smart. The whole structure behind the story is really good. First act starts off really well, and it already shows Prince Charming, introduces you to him right away. He's reading similar story to the thing that the first movie opened up with, but it has different variations of it, and it even shows Prince Charming, he's walking up to the tower, but then he comes there realizing that she's not there after the wolf tells her, and it's just a really kind of interesting way already introduces you what Charming really is. I mean, it shows he's the one who wants to get to Fiona, not because, well, he wants to be a king, and it is already shows that already, and it is a good way to kind of like do the story ready and just introduce you to one of our like secondary villains, like exactly who was really supposed to do it, other than Shrek to save him. This is really a good way to show that, as obviously there were more people that were gonna have to save other than Shrek. It's a good way to kind of show that. And then it's just kind of like cuts to Shrek and Fiona on their honeymoon in the montage. A way to kind of like show that, like show where the movie left off with them last time on their honeymoon, and they come back and then they figure out that they need to go to this royal ball to the blessings from the parents. It's a really kind of like a good way to introduce you right into it. Go right into what you're supposed to do. This is what it's supposed to be about, and it's just really smart how they do it. It just shows them how they have to do that, and you can already see Shrek's he's so debated, and he's not confident with it at all, and you can already just see the tension already, and just really a good way to kick off the plot. Then they kind of have the whole thing, like they're going on it, don't keep asking, are you there yet? Just a good way to kind of move the plot, and would normally be a kind of like boring scene and put jokes there in it. And then it kind of like comes right in the second act. They arrive in the far, far away, and you can already see that Shrek doesn't look too amused by it. The old donkey kind of is. And they get there, like King Harold just really, he is not thrilled at all. You can already see because, well, he did not expect it at all. He did not want Fiona to be an ogre, and did not want Shrek, who is an ogre, to marry his daughter. It is really kind of interesting way it already shows it, like, exactly, since the ogres obviously aren't really that liked in this universe. So it's just kind of interesting to kind of show that, and it's just kind of already you can see that. And then they have honestly the whole dinner scene there, and that's where it really shows they don't like each other at all. They're just fighting, and Fiona's just upset about it because, well, she just wants Shrek to get along with her father because that's the whole reason why she came there, and it just really makes her upset. And so it just already kind of like shows the conflict in the film right there with Fiona, and that Shrek already made her feel upset, and just obviously just feels kind of guilty about it even after the whole thing with Fairy Godmother there. I think that's how they introduce her. They kind of show her, and they're try and make Fiona a bit more happy, at least quote unquote make her, and then it just really it comes in and Shrek takes the card thing, and it's really interesting how they kind of like show the first kind of sort of interactions between our main hero and the villain, and it just really shows him that way. It just shows already, oh my god, they're not really happy in their direction. That's definitely was not a part of her plan, and Shrek feels bad about that, and it's really just feels like let down Fiona, which already adds to the conflict immediately with how she feels with Fiona. It feels like he needs to make her happy because he made her sad because he just couldn't get along with her father. And it kind of shows King Harold and Queen Lillian a bit, and you already see right there, I mean, they do not agree about what happened at all. I mean, Harold thinks it's ridiculous, and then Lillian's just trying to have a whole argument how it's what Fiona would want and stuff like that. That already kind of like shows the relation that they would have disagreements, and it just kind of like gets off of the normal parenting thing. They have a lot of disagreements on stuff, and yeah, it's just worse like that. Kind of like it's been to the Fairy Godmother. Fairy Godmother is definitely not happy with Harold because, well, that wasn't how her plan went, and it just really how the insurance shows that, and then Harold trying to find ways to get it. And because, well, we don't really know at the moment, but later on we'll figure out that the reason why he's working out is because of the whole thing. Like, she helped him with her, so he kind of has to, basically. And it's just interesting how it shows him, he goes into, for example, he hires someone at the moment, like, it's presented as a mysterious creature, but later on we realize it's Puss in Boots, and Shrek, you can really see how disappointed he is in the next scene. Like, he's up all night in the middle of the night just feeling awful about everything, and you can really just see it with all the music in the background and just how sad he looks throughout that scene. It really shows. Harold comes in there at least saying that he wants to have father-son time with Shrek. That I kind of lead him and Donkey right to Puss in Boots, which is revealed from the mysterious creature there. And I mean, Puss in Boots attacks him, but then after then he kind of just teamed up with him because, well, he felt bad because, well, he basically he's just doing it because that's the king told him all the money he gave. And then they kind of like goes along with him, ends up walking the Fairy Godmother, and you already see Fiona's definitely not happy. Well, he's like, she's wondering where Shrek is, and then Harold obviously completely lies about it. It's just really interesting about it, how it goes next to the Fairy Godmother. That's her, they have like a huge interaction in her factory, already showing she's definitely not happy with her. You can tell him there's no way an ogre can live happily ever after. She's already like, she's really trying to get him to not go with Fiona, like break up with her basically. You can already see it because she really, saying ogre can't live happily ever after. Just really kind of seeing how they do it. And that just really is an intense interaction with them, as in his relationship. Shrek's not happy with Fairy Godmother. Fairy Godmother definitely is really mad about Shrek, because he does not want her plan to get messed up like that. And then basically Shrek ends up going to this potion room and ends up getting this happily ever after potion. And it's basically, he kind of like shows Fairy Godmother not having the whole mess that was made, and then she does realize she can just use use it to her advantage. Just that already shows how smart she is. Like, she's using that whole happily ever after thing to her advantage. You don't really know what she's gonna do yet at that point, but you can already see like she's got something in mind because she's really smart with all this stuff. It kind of shows Shrek and Donkey. They both drink the potion and gets night and pass out along with Fiona, who is just a good idea that Shrek was saying not to go. She thinks it's a good idea not to go, and she just passes out basically from the potion that she does not know about. It just really shows that it's a good way of how to move on the plot already. You can already know since Shrek drank that potion, he's doing it for Fiona because he thinks that being a human would be best for her, would work best for the relationship, basically, because she's really convinced by what the fairy godmother said, and it really shows it. And then they end up going back into there after Shrek gets some clothes, and she's end up greeting with the fairy godmother, who let Shrek basically get absolutely intimidated. She lets Shrek feel bad on purpose. He really wants her plan to go together. That's where you can see the plan that she was talking about. Like, you see, they have Prince Charming pose as Shrek. It's just really a smart way to do it. It really just shows how devious her plan is, and just really how well she's going through just to try and make it work. And it's a really good way to do it, really. And it's just a really genius, especially since it really convinces Shrek that she just does not love him. But obviously he does not know that this whole thing here is just because Fairy Godmother is manipulating him. And then basically they kind of go in the poison apple, and he overhears the whole conversation there with Harold, and as well as Charming and Fairy Godmother, and then reveals themselves, and just kind of cuts right to the same thing on a TV show with all like the fairy tale creatures. And notice Shrek's been arrested, so after they kind of like jaw drop, basically go right into the mirror thing. I think basically, and you get there. It's at least what I assume. It doesn't show that, but I do assume that's how they got there. And then there's also the whole thing with Fiona. It already shows her she's like, that is not my guy. She's already like does not feel like that Shrek is really out of his mind, but she does. She's still like kind of like fooled by it from the potion, but she does not really feel like it's Shrek at all at the same time. And then he already shows Harold like the thing that the fairy godmother gave him earlier. Basically, he ends up using that as advantage and not giving Fiona the right coffee. And just only just a smart one. Well, Harold, he already realizes after all this, it's not right to just mess with a relationship like that, especially for his own daughter. And then it already shows the whole ball thing, and it already shows there, and he cuts into there, basically. And this University Fiona is not happy at all with Charming right there, and pretending to be Shrek. And then they have the whole prison escape, and it was like a giant gingerbread man known as Mongo. They get there, there's a really interesting climax. It gets right into it with the idea hero in the background. Shrek basically on a race against time to try and stop Prince Charming from kissing Fiona. And it's really, it's a good race against time kind of thing. It's really intense, and then ends up getting in there, and it's gonna stop up, and then fights Fairy Godmother with everyone else, and ends up kind of like having Charming kiss her, but because of the whole thing earlier, Harold giving her the wrong one on purpose. The really only thing with Harold is really just moving along. He learns to respect his daughter more. It just really shows it in the story, and it's a good way to show that here. And especially once he gets to the point where Fairy Godmother throws all of her magic at Shrek, and then he gets into the way, which is a really smart thing. It just really brings his character arc to the end. He just goes in front of him, takes the fall, and it shows the whole reason why he was doing all this, because, well, he was a frog to begin with. He had to turn human, and it's really interesting to say the least. I like how they did that. I mean, it just really shows it. And it says he's really willing to sacrifice just to make his whole daughter happy, and it's just really a good way to do that and solve the climax. And then kind of like end the movie with them deciding to be ogres because that's who Fiona wants them to stay as, because that's how they married. So she wants to stay like that, and then it just ends with Livin' La Vida Loca, Donkey and Puss singing it, and it's just really a good way to end the movie. It just really is a fun kind of ending, and just really shows everything's all gone and they're all good, so it's a happy ending. and it's just a good way to close the movie. The pacing is really good. Like the first movie, they do have a lot of like montages and jokes and like let you kind of get through like scenes that would normally be like really long, and it just really kind of like gets you through it faster and just makes it feel more like a complete movie. And throughout the movie, it really connects you and feels like it went out to the runtime in total and be going out to everything connected to each other. Shrek is a really good character. The main focus of his character basically is just trying to make Fiona happy throughout this, as well as just trying to get a better relationship with Harold himself. Because like, you can already see right away he meets Harold, he's not confident with Harold right away. You can already see like Harold doesn't like him either, and he's just not happy with him because he's not confident. You can already see by the whole thing of how he had a whole fight with him at the dinner table, and he just already showed it immediately. And then you can already see he feels like they made Fiona upset. And it's a really good progression with this. Each and every move from now on after that would basically to try and make Fiona happy, at least to make him think that at least. And it's kind of ways, even going as far as turning himself into a human because he's so convinced that Fiona doesn't really like him as an ogre. And it's really like a good way to really show his character. Just shows how much he cares about Fiona. I mean, he doesn't really want to do this, and he's a bit hesitant about it, but it was for her, so he ended up doing it just for her. It just really shows how much he cares about Fiona. Donkey is a really good character, and along the way you can really see he helps Shrek a lot. Obviously comedic relief, but at the same time he helps Shrek along the way. Ended up becoming a stallion because he tests slow potion and ended up becoming a stallion. It's really kind of interesting how they do that. I mean, it kind of like goes back to the first movie, like the whole thing where like Fiona called him a noble steed. You see the way he helped him along the way with his whole problems. I mean, always like directing him everywhere and just always helping him, especially with Puss in Boots. Like you can see he's not confident with Puss in Boots at first. He doesn't really like him. And obviously, well, he attacked him at first, so he's not really confident with him. And overall, they'll end up becoming good friends by the end as it just happened more. They help him and it ends up basically becoming friends basically because they're not singing together with Live and La Vida Loca, and it really just shows, well, they're now good friends. Puss in Boots is also a really good character. At first, you can see he's just an assassin for the money, basically, but I'm kind of like feeling bad about it after that. We ended up helping Shrek along the way. It really just shows characters. I mean, you can already see, I mean, he's just doing something because he's an assassin and the king sent him. And it's really interesting how they end up doing that. I mean, I really like the way his character is, and he's really smart within this, and ends up helping Shrek along the way, fighting the fairy godmother. He knows a lot about him. Donkey doesn't really like it that much, let them like it by the end. Really does a good job with that as well, just really helping Shrek along the way. That's the main two things that he does in the movie, and they do a really good job with that. Fiona's a really good character. You can really see she's obviously a really central element of this plot because her relationship with Shrek is the main focus of it. It just really shows character a lot. I mean, she really just wants Shrek to get accepted into the family and just get along with her father more, and you don't really see that. I mean, she's really upset. She did not like how Shrek did not get along with her father at all. It just really made her upset, especially since she was worried about Shrek a lot. I mean, they did a good job with that. I mean, she really expands her relationship a lot with him, and especially since after the whole fact, the whole potion stuff, and the whole thing where they fake having Prince Charming there, kind of like marrying, trying to marry her basically, just Prince Charming. Fiona definitely does not like it. She's already suspicious of me. And she does kind of feel like it's definitely not Shrek at all. That just really just made her realize a lot of that, like, she wants to be with the ogre she married, which is what made him turn back into an ogre. It's just a really smart way to do that and just really show her character. King Harold is a very good character. You can already see him right away. He definitely does not like Shrek at first because, well, he's judging him before he does it, which again is a very common occurrence thing with him. That over time, you can really just see he does end up kind of like appreciating Shrek more as it goes along. It's basically he's kind of realizing that it's what Fiona wants. He just kind of realizes that is basically the whole reason why he's doing everything that he's doing is because her godmother helped him get his happily ever after with Lillian, and she will take it away from him. He takes a fall for Shrek basically by the end would complete his character arc, especially since you can just see by that point he accepts Shrek because that's what Fiona wants, and shows that how much he is a much better person than what it really seems like he is at the beginning, because, well, Harry Godmother manipulated him, and then he ended up taking the fall from, like, going back into a frog from Fairy Godmother's magic, and it just really shows that he's really willing to do anything for his daughter. Fairy Godmother is a really good villain. She's just really smart with every single one of her plans, and just makes her feel really intimidating and devious throughout the movie, as basically each one of her plans really close to working, and like the whole thing with Prince Charming, like, just to one thing of like Harold changing his mind for not to work, it just really just shows she's really devious and just really smart with her plans. I mean, she just really takes advantage of any situation to try and make sure that her and Prince Charming are at the top. Just really just shows how evil she is. A good way to really show that, really. I mean, she's definitely, I'd say, the best villain in this entire franchise, just because she's just so intimidating, and her entire thing is really works. I mean, she's really smart with her plans, and just really ends up working out to the advantage of the movie, because she takes advantage of what goes on in the movie to make her plan go out, and it almost works on multiple occasions. Voice acting is once again fantastic. Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy again does a fantastic job as Rose and Shrek and Donkey. With their chemistry and really working, they do a great job feeling confident in their roles. Same thing with Cameron Diaz. She returns and does once again a fantastic job as Fiona. And then for new parts of the cast, Antonio Banderas does a fantastic job as Puss in Boots. You really feel like the character, as like each and every one of his lines just makes him feel like an assassin. Just really feeling like the character, just how confident he seems in each and one of his lines. Same thing goes for Julie Andrews, Jennifer Saunders, Robert Everett, and John Cleese. Those four especially do a really good job in their respective roles. Just they all feel like they're confident in their roles. The soundtrack is really good. Accidentally in Love, which really just already shows that like Shrek and Fiona, I mean, they're in love, and it kind of feels like, well, in some way, they were accidentally in love if you kind of think about it in a way. I mean, if you go in there and she just came into and ran into her basically at the tower, basically just doing something in the last movie for her and for someone else, and then ended up falling in love with her all that way. So in a way, they did accidentally fall in love, which is basically what that is trying to say. And I think that's actually a pretty clever way of saying that. They do a good job putting that into it in that way. And then they got the whole song, Funky Town, which is supposed to be, like, they get into Far, Far Away. It's kind of mysterious to Shrek and the others, so in some ways to them, it is a funky town, is what it's supposed to say. And it's just really a good way to kind of use it as they enter Far, Far Away. And they use the song Ever Fall in Love as that song. There's really... It's a good way to use an entire like escape scene from the potion room. It just really gets you into it. Plus, it also like talks about how you fall in love with someone you shouldn't fall in love with, which is in a way Shrek feels kind of in a way. I mean, it's just what really a lot of people think, like Fairy Godmother saying that, trying to manipulate Shrek into thinking that he fell in love with someone he shouldn't have. And then earlier in the movie, they had I Need Some Sleep by Eels, which is a really good song in a way, but also it really works for the movie, as basically it just really just shows Shrek can't sleep because he just really not happy what he did with Fiona. He feels really bad, so he just cannot sleep, and he does need some sleep. And it's really as simple as that, how it works. And then they have Going Out for a Hero, which has really worked. As Jennifer Saunders sings it as with Fairy Godmother, it's just a really good song. Like, gets you right into the climax. I mean, it makes the climax really interesting. Is it being in the background of the entire climax just really makes it, you get into it more. And then another song that they use, which changes, which is used when Shrek kind of like entered Far, Far Away as a human. And that one is pretty simple how that works. I mean, obviously there's a lot of changes with Shrek and Fiona and Donkey, basically, and that's exactly what it's supposed to say. And it's in time and change him, but you can't change time basically. And then they also have Livin' La Vida Loca as the very last one to end the movie. It's supposed to be a fun song to end off for a good ending, and it just really works in that case. So overall, Shrek 2 is a masterpiece that really expands on the first movie, and it's a really fantastic sequel to running a fantastic movie. So I'm going to give Shrek 2 a 10 out of 10. That was my review of Shrek 2. What are your thoughts on Shrek 2? Tell me in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.